Lineups from 3:30 p.m. Arsenal, Leno, Maitland-Niles, SOKRATIS, KOSCIELNY, MONREAL, KOLASINAC, XHAKA, RAMSEY, OZIL, AUBAMEYANG, LACAZETTE subs, CECH, MUSTAFI, ELNENY, GUENDOUZI, SUAREZ, IWOBI, NKETIAH. Manchester United, De Gea, Young, Lindelof, Smalling, Shaw, MATIC, Fred, POGBA, DALOT, LUKAKU, RASHFORD subs, ROMERO, by ROJO. MCTOMINAY, Andreas, Marshall, Greenwood. Have you been looking for a new podcast? No? Found you one anyway. The Bang Average podcast started out as a fantasy football draft pod before YIRMA got involved and started banging on about FPL. It's now a hybrid of FPL, draft and complete and utterly non-relevant content with nothing to do with fantasy, branded and packaged up as a fantasy football podcast. Join Mike, John and Ryan each week as they look at the upcoming Premier League fixtures, talk about dog food, John being old, Larn FC and generally anything else that alleviates the need to do actual statistical research prior to a show. Fantasy Football, Game Week 30 Preview, written by Niall Hawthorne. FPL mimics life in full technicolor detail. We're into our 30s now. When your season is born, you have your whole season ahead of you, full of possibilities. You learn a lot from GWs 1 to 10, like a child learning how to walk, talk and think for themselves. Between GWs 11 to 20 you slowly mature as a player, with plenty of temper tantrums thrown into the mix for good measure, but by the time you hit GW 21 you're now fully responsible for your own actions. GWs 21 to 29 contain so many moments that you will think back on and wonder just what the bloody hell you were thinking of. But then you hit GW 30. GWs 1 to 10 are a distant memory, GWs 11 to 20 are sepia-tinged nostalgic moments, and the wild, hedonistic toll of GWs 21 to 29 are weighing heavily on you. You now know what bitter reality looks like. You know your fate is cast for the remainder of your interminable season. It's going to be a trudge through GW after GW with no release from the constant reminder that there's no real point anymore, but you must continue until you finally meet the sweet final release of GW 38. On that cheery note, let's see if we can start our 30s off with a bang, shall we? Defender, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Liverpool 27 points in his last 2 games including 3 assists, 6 bonus points and fresh off what was effectively a nice long rest. He now faces a home game against Burnley in what is the first of 9 consecutive must-win games. While the strike force has stuttered in recent games, the Liverpool defense has remained the most consistent in the league, and I see no reason why this will change this weekend. With VVD swatting away the Wood Barnes combo with his usual ease, TAA will spend much of this game bombing forward, providing attacking impetus. Assists and clean sheets does 3 bonus points make. Midfielder, Henrik Mkhitaryan, Arsenal. I admit to being a little astonished at the fact that Mkhitaryan has amassed 6 goals and 4 assists from just 13 full starts and a few cameos thrown in. That's quite a return, and you sense that Unai Emery has finally worked out effective formations to get the best out of what he was bequeathed. There's a fair chance that opponents Manchester United could be hit with a severe dose of after the Lord Mayor's showitis this weekend following that astonishing evening in Paris, and if so then and inform Arsenal are primed to take advantage. 31 points in his last 3 GWs tell me that if they do, Mkhitaryan will be leading the charge. Plus, I really wanted to point out that the way I remember to spell his name is to break it into MKETIAH. Now why would that way of spelling his name stick with me? Ooh, I should ask it Fantasy or my about that. Forward, Jamie Vardy, Leicester City. All seasoned FPL players are searching for that one Leicester City player that will explode under Brendan Rodgers, steady, and his new regime. Well, my logic is that Brendan is going to keep it simple for the remainder of the season and turn to those with real character, until he gets to the next transfer window and can bring in Lucas and Daniel Sturridge. There's no bigger character in the Foxes squad than Jamie Vardy, who has 3 goals in his last 4, and now faces the hilariously inept Fulham defense at the King Power Stadium. The goals conceded record of the Cottagers over the last 9 games incredibly matches the bank account number of at Fantasy Irma, 422,223,322. I expect Vardy to be front and center when Leicester add a 3 to the end of that number, which will coincidentally then match at Fantasy Irma's bank balance. Remarkable. Captain, Lucky Dippo, come on. Aguero at home to Watford, who conceded 5 away to Liverpool. Lukaku, who has just started one of his Lukaku watch-ending streaks of form. Salah at home to Burnley, who have 1 clean sheet in 9 and conceded 5 to Newcastle and Crystal Palace over the last 2 weeks. If you have one of these players, captain him. If you have 2, flip a coin. If you have 3, then I hate you. Outsider, Troy Deeney, Watford. While I think that City could batter Watford, I also think that Troy Deeney could make life extremely difficult for Otamendi, Stones and co. if Javi Gracia allows his men to have a go. Let's face it, the defensive rearguard action didn't work at Anfield, so they may as well have a swing, right? Draft, John Goring Stankovic, Huddersfield Town back in favor in 14 points in his last 2 GWs with an ownership of 2.9%. There's a fair chance he's available. Fantasy football.